Many things happened within the last 5 days, and many of them will most likely dominate political discourse in the coming week because of their importance or otherwise to the 2023 general elections. For instance, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has said that his ministry needs more funding to tackle the scourge of fake news and disinformation. The minister stated this while speaking in Abuja when he appeared before the Senate Committee on Information to defend the budget of his ministry for 2023. During the defense, he stressed that his ministry needs more funds as a matter of urgency to tackle the scourge of fake news, hate speech, and propagate the achievements of the government in the last 7.5 years.
The major challenge the whole world is facing today is actually battling disinformation, fake news, and hate speech. And when you look at the technology today, and you look at the avalanche and deluge of information that you even receive unsolicited today, you can better be able to see the challenges this ministry faces. Like what we said, the next Third World War will be caused by fake news. So we believe that the earlier the governments all over the world realize that as much attention and so should be paid to media as to housing, as to transportation, I think it's better for all of us. We live today in a world of perception, and perception is usually reality. And I'm sure many of us have been victims here of fake news. And I think this is my major challenge that people do. They still think media is what it was 20, 30 years.
That's like Mohammed talking about more funds to tackle fake news and disinformation. Also, the Federal High Court has constituted a special task force of judges to hear and determine all pre-election cases before it. A circular issued by the Chief Justice of the Federal High Court, Jones Oho, underscored the need to designate a team of judges for such cases, given the large volume of pre-election suits pending in the court. The circular also states that judges who are members of the task force will suspend all regular activities in their respective courts due to the urgency of the electoral cases, which are time-bound. The judges have been given a 4-week ultimatum within which to dispose of all pre-election cases ahead of the general elections. And finally, a presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, has said he will dialogue with the members of the proscribed indigenous peoples of Biafra, IPOB, and other agitators to restore peace in the country if elected president come 2023. Obi, who was one-time governor of Anambra State, made this known while responding to questions on insecurity in the country at the corporate headquarters of the Media Trust Group. Mr. Obi also says he will put an end to fuel subsidy regime if he becomes president, describing it as an organized crime. Here are some excerpts from what he said.
It appears that all the presidential candidates of the 4 leading political parties are in agreement that fuel subsidy must go. The question is how soon, considering that the present administration had set the exit date for subsidy for June next year, the month after it leaves office. For the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, exiting subsidy will be an immediate thing so that proper investment could be made in sectors that need to be invested in.
Subsidy is organized crime. I will not allow any form of criminality as president of Nigeria. The amount of fuel they say we consume cannot be consumed by this country. There's an empirical evidence. We are about the same size as Pakistan. Pakistan, we are about 210, 220. Pakistan is about the same size. They have more roads. We probably have same number of vehicles, or they have even more. Yet, their fuel consumption is a third of ours. So who is drinking the balance?
Obi is also emphasizing that he is a Nigerian candidate and not a southeastern candidate, and will negotiate with all agitating groups around the country so as to quell the spate of insecurity across the country.
I'm contesting as a Nigerian. I don't want people to vote for me because I'm an Igbo man, because I'm from Southeast. I don't want anybody to vote for me because people don't buy bread cheaper because they're from that zone. I don't want anybody to vote for me because I'm a Christian. I don't want them to vote because it's my turn. It's not inheritance. It is the turn of Nigerians to take back their country.
A point of contention among Nigerians is the epileptic power sector, which the Labour Party presidential candidate said will be tackled by drawing from models that have worked in other African countries.
Egypt is just exporting electricity now to Europe. Egypt is a third world country. If Egypt can do it, Nigeria can do it.
The Labour Party presidential candidate is insisting that Nigeria can be salvaged by purposeful and honest leadership that will manage the country resources like he did in Anambra State, and is boasting that he is the most qualified of all the contestants that have thrown their hearts into the ring. Yusuf.
Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Hamza Idris. Tonight on the program, we are joined by Samaila Musa. He is a public commentator. We're also joined by Mukhtar Suleiman, who is communications manager at Accountability Lab. Together, we'll be discussing some of the recent issues in the polity. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's
always
good
a
to have
pleasure
you.
to actually sit in front of you.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take a short break, and when we return, the discussion commences. Don't go away.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Welcome back. Mukhtar, Musa, welcome once again.
Thank you.
Yes, from the Accountability Lab. Just yesterday or there about the Minister of Information said he needs more money. His ministry needs more money to counter fake news. But this is not the first time. Remember in 2020, I think he asked for $500 million to upgrade facilities at some institutions. Yeah, $500 million. Now, is it worth it? Is it what he should be asking now? And what happened, with what he requested before to upgrade NTA and other facilities of the federal government?
Thank you so much for having me. It's always lovely to actually be here at Trust TV. I think there's this biblical thing that says, to he who little is given, much is expected. And it's so painful and sad that since when he has been the minister, which is for 7+ years now, we've not seen any significant change that the ministry has actually made. Fake news, disinformation, misinformation is at an all-time high, as it is right now in the country.
All-time high?
Yes, so it's at an all-time high as it is right now in the country, because we're getting close to the election. It's no secret. It's not. It's something that is expected anyway. And yes, the ministry should be at the forefront of it and see how they can ensure that they put in place structures to combat most of these things. But 2020, you requested for more money. NTA is still almost the same, if not even deteriorating even more. We're not seeing the impact.
Even in terms of equipment or in terms of programming? And
even the quality of the programming. I don't mean to take a jab at NTA.
Yeah.
Honestly, let me first of all put that out there. But you can actually say that it's as a result of the neglect from the government and other key stakeholders who should actually oversee the running and the day-to-day of that particular media house. But now let's move away from actually talking about the media house and talk about the government in its entirety. We've not seen much impact for the work of the information minister from the ministry itself. We've not seen, there might be programs that are being rolled out, but we are not seeing it. You know, there's this thing they say, unless you see impact, what you're just doing is just carrying out activities. We say that a lot in the CSO space. And that is similar to what has been happening for that particular ministry. We're not seeing them at the forefront. We only see Lai Mohammed almost, it's like seeing him once every market day, every 4 market days now these days, unlike before. And honestly, we're not feeling the impact of what he's doing so far. And he cannot complain right now that it's his lack of money, because like I said, to he who little is given, much is expected. You've been given a lot of money in the past. It's now that the budget cuts are coming in. And budget cuts are not just coming in from that particular ministry. They're coming in from different ministries as well, because of the lack of funds that the government is actually suffering at this time.
Yeah.
So the question of what would he do now that he's in this position? Is he saying that with the money that he's been given now, he cannot combat fake news, misinformation, and disinformation? Or how smart and how much can they adjust and adapt to the current realities and the trends that they have?
Yes, Samaila, do you have anything to add to this? Is combating fake news about getting more money from the government, or is beyond that?
Well, I think beyond what he said is they need to actually explain in details, because you see, when you say you want to combat fake news is something that is world over. So I need to understand, because you see, this budget you're talking about, this monies that you're asking for belongs to all of us as Nigerians. So we really need some explanations, because it's a bit shoddy. You know, when you talk about this, and this has been on. I mean, before you came into government, there have been fake news. What have you done? What have you achieved? So there should be specifics to say this is what the money is going in for, or this is how we intend to spend this money. Because if you ask for the same money some 7 years ago when you came into government, and then instead of the thing going down, it's actually tripling the figure we had, and I'm talking about fake news, then what exactly do you want to achieve? And I think we need to remind him he has just about 6 or 7 months to leave.
Yes.
So what exactly does he want to do?
Is it opening offices?
Or is it
or
part
recruiting people who are expert in fact-checking?
Is this budget meant to cow or just to tame the opposition? Because, of course, this is campaign period. People are going to be talking, you understand, both people who they like and who they don't like to see their faces. Is it some kind of decoy to say we need to clamp down on what they're saying against our party or something? So we need specifics. You understand? This doesn't happen in other climes, because when you're asking for money, you should be able to give an account of how you spend the
specifics.
You understand? So really, I think they need to be reminded that just fake news, what exactly do you term as fake news? If I say this government is not doing well, is that fake news? Do you understand what I'm saying? So I don't know what exactly the fake news they want to, and this is campaign period, it happens world over. There's got to be perception management quite a lot of times. So it now depends on what is the disposition of this government. What do you term as fake news at this time? This is the time people should be free to speak their minds. This is kind of president I want.
But not to mislead, right?
Not to mislead, you understand? But you see, in Nigeria, we're used to all manner of policies being thrown at us, you know, when
which
people...
we are definitely going to...
Yeah, and when people are not comfortable with
But you see some of these
things.
government officials, when they face the legislators, you know, the legislators have a way of picking at specific areas to now ask them questions. Beyond the mother ministry, there are many agencies under Federal Ministry of Information, like NOAA, you know, that's NOA, and many others. Do you think they are really doing what is expected of them? Or they are also facing funding, and that is why they are all, you know, sleeping, just waiting for the month to end to collect.
Well, like he rightly said earlier, you see, the problem we have in this country, which is major with also this this government cannot be absolved of it, is that there are no targets, no timelines given. You set out, you say you want to achieve this. What's the timeline? And that's why we have so many nonchalant people. We have so many, you know, not doing good personalities in government who are actually cannot show you one specific thing they have achieved for the past 5 or 7 years they've been in the position they are holding. And nobody is asking questions. Nobody have you ever had somebody fired on basis of incompetence? Not in this government. And that's worrisome, because in other climes you would think that some people should.
The president fired Babachir. Is it incompetent? Yeah.
That's not
bias,
incompetence. It's corruption. It has to do with corruption, and he was forced. It was because the person involved at the time was Bukola Saraki, who was the Senate president. They actually muzzled.
About 2 NDDC bosses were also asked.
Not
Is it
for
corruption or
incompetence. Not for incompetence. They all appeared at the National Assembly, not for incompetence. I think what will have been the litmus test that I will have shown to Nigerians that this government is serious and ready to fire whoever is not ready to bring the results is the issue of insecurity. Did you hear anybody be fired? How many people have been killed in this country and nobody even resigned out of, look, my conscience can't take it. I think I'm not fit for this office. Let me resign. But the president who promised Nigerians, because when you are coming into government, you came on the mantra of 2 things, security and anti-corruption. And then so many people have shown like a daskal attitude in carrying out their duties, and no one single person has been fired. It's really, really worrisome. It's not inspiring for young Nigerians to feel, look, if you don't sit up, then you're off this radar. So it's something that we're just hoping, since we're in an election period, maybe there will be some respite coming out.
So how do you think they should approach it? Because I know, like in Daily Trust here, we even have a special desk now for checking fake news. Immediately you send it, we counter you, both in the paper, on our digital platforms, and all that. How do you think the Ministry of Information should approach it beyond asking for money? Because like in our place, we didn't ask for money, but the desk has started functioning and people are, looking forward to that page in the paper or our, other social media platforms, including our TV. We do it on Friday. I think we have fake news, picking many of them and then check them and then tell Nigerians that this is not the way to go and this is not true.
I think it's a collaborative effort.
Okay.
It has to be something that the government cannot do it alone. And aside from that, I don't think...
So you're not talking about Nigerians?
Yes, not just even Nigerians itself, not just even Nigerians in their entirety, because of course, it's going to be quite difficult to get everybody to get engaged. There are always going to be bad people. It's the way the world works. It connotes to the eccentricity of being humans and how the color of the earth. So it's fine if they are bad people. But I think the ministry needs to understand that it is not a sole responsibility, but it's a collaborative effort. Now imagine the program that Daily Trust is currently running. The ministry should step in and bring some of its funding to empower, upskill, and also expand the reach that the paper, the TV, the programs and all of that actually get into. And they can do that for multiple channels, and then set up their own fake news desk who relate with other ministries and other media houses, and a collaboration of different CSOs. Now that could work. That could upscale the impact of what they're doing, because like Madam Musa have rightly stated here, they need to break that complex, overwhelming goal into manageable goal. Break it down from the broadness of what it is into measurable objectives, to say between November to December, this is what we want to do. Between December to February, this is what we are going to do. And this is how we intend to do it. I think I said this in the last time we were discussing where I said, when you come up to talk on platforms, you don't just profile solutions that are vague. We want to know how well do you know about your solutions that you're trying to profile, because that will actually speak to competence. Anybody can do. I can just wake up in the morning and said, tell my boss, give me 2 billion, I want to come back to fake news. But then again, that doesn't make sense. I need to be able to
even the definition of fake
plan,
news, because I find it difficult, the attitude of some government officials in even separating fake news and maybe holding those in authority to account. We are victims. Other media houses are also victims. You did a very good report to now tell government that, okay, certain things are not really going on well, and then you see them slamming fines on you. It happened to us.
Yes.
After we did a report on Zamfara. Was that fake news? We brought out facts and figures, but so how can we now help government agencies like the Ministry of Information and its parastatals to understand that there is a clear distinction between social responsibility and then maybe doing their jobs?
Aside from even outlining where the clear line is between social responsibility and them doing their jobs, I think we need to also understand collectively what fake news, misinformation, and disinformation is. Now, these are completely different concepts, and the approach to which they are taking matters a lot. Now, you see a lot of the time the government is a perpetrator of disinformation. Where,
the government itself?
Yes, the government itself. Dare I say, hope I get home safely today. And you see the perpetrators of disinformation where you
and there's a difference between fake news and disinformation.
Yes, and misinformation as well. So you pick one thing and then you make it the entire thing. We're not saying that it's entirely
Please,
bad.
can you share that? Because Nigerians are really, maybe you use the recent incident of the alert by US and saying nothing exists.
Now that's disinformation. That's disinformation. Well, it depends on how much facts are there to back up what the US embassy, alerts the US embassy actually sent out. I'm not a security expert.
But to dismiss it in its entirety is disinformation.
But dismissing it in its entirety and still setting up checkpoints, raiding estates, arresting people in town, all of that making news, and we're all seeing all of that clearly, that's still the disinformation that we're talking about. Because you're trying to say, oh, this is not happening, but you're taking actions that we are seeing that actually supports the fact that this is happening. So that's the thing. We need to understand what is corporate social responsibility as a way of ensuring that mass hysteria does not break out. And that's part of what the media does. But still, again, doesn't necessarily mean that the story should not be told. You cannot say that people should not be aware of what is going on. And that is, it's a big part of what the government needs to really, really understand. If, like Lai Mohammed said, if his heart is in the right place and he really wants to combat fake news, misinformation, and disinformation, he should sit down properly, send his own team for proper training, and find a way to actually coexist with the media and other CSOs to ensure effective delivery of that.
Thank you very much. I think we can seal that one here. Maybe we move to the other important issue which we have in our tidbit. Justice So, the head of the High Court said they are selecting some judges who will face pre-election matters ahead of the 2023 elections. What is your take on this? Is this a good decision on the right direction?
It's a good decision. That has always been on. It's not the first time that is actually coming up. My worry actually with that is that, you see, the cartel, there's a cartel among judges and some SAN that is more like a cult.
That's an allegation.
Yeah, it is an allegation because it's coming out from lawyers who know or who should know better to say that, look, the people who appoints which judge goes to what states pre-election matters or post-election matters are predetermined by some cartel who feel they have special interest. Where do we have clients? Which judge is ready to play ball?
Wow.
Do you understand? So judgments are being bought before the sitting already starts because a cartel.
I wish we had one of the judges here.
You understand what I'm saying? They need to debunk that. They need to build our confidence to know that really that's the last hope of a common person. You understand? Because you see, a lot of these things happen. Sometimes you already hear the rumor. And then when it started playing out, it's like they're playing to the gallery because it's just obvious that this shouldn't have gone this way. But they bring in some technicalities to say, no, we knock out this candidate because of these technicalities, but he won. You understand what I'm saying? So really, we need that the judiciary itself. I don't know if there is a medium where the new chief just the attorney general is going to hear this. If at all, there's a means where you can checkmate these issues because there's no point. If we're talking about credible elections, we have spoken in different fora about how do we have credible elections, have the right people in governance and all of that. And yet, some people are sabotaging whatever effort. What's the need for me to go and queue to get a voter's card when it doesn't count in the long run? I stayed to say it's been counted right in my presence, but my candidate has been denied the victory he won because some technicalities or some judges say it can't happen. You see, so this is worrisome. You understand? So they announced it that it's going to be pre-election matters coming up to deal with that. That is correct. It's not happening for the first time. But what is the confidence you're building within citizens of Nigeria to say, well, the judiciary still remain the last hope of the common man?
Okay, Mukhtar, talking about confidence and all that. Now, why even pre-election matters? Why? Because sometimes we, as he spoke, you can see now judges are on the defensive. But what about the politicians?
I think the internal conflict that have existed among all parties have actually led up to this point. But like he has stated, this is not the first time. Where I have a bone of contention with the ruling now is what happens, because now they're saying that they're going to suspend all other pending cases. Does that mean that, how do I put this, are we prioritizing justice now in a way where we say, oh, because of the elections and internal conflicts between because most of the cases are usually internal conflicts between the political parties, and then contradictory issues between what the political parties sent out and what INEC believes should actually be the case, and most of that issue. So, but if that is happening, then what happens to...
Okay, you're talking about maybe other issues,
yes,
maybe criminal cases.
Yes, other key criminal cases. Because we know there's a common saying that says
but you
justice
see,
delayed.
it's a select
yes,
number.
but these people have cases in their chambers. So are we saying that these cannot occur concurrently? Are we saying that they cannot happen concurrently? Are we saying that people's justice should be delayed because of this? Because at the end of the day, what we do as a country, especially what the judicial part of the country does, accounts for the strength of what our democracy is. So, and the strength of our democracy, yes, key election, but it also speaks well to how well can I trust the fact that if I go to the court, I'm going to get the justice that I deserve. So if you're asking me to wait a little for my turn, because some people have their own issues coming out and all of that, just because they could not sort it out internally, then I think that there's a big problem there.
Are you suggesting that maybe some of the cases pending before some of these judges should be reallocated to other judges?
Perhaps they should be reallocated to other justices, or before now, we should have known that this was coming. Before now, all the judges should have been told that they have up until so day to clear their chambers, to ensure that they sit on every case, because sometimes we see court cases adjourned for 3 months, which there's no logical explanation.
Yeah.
A case, like a typical example is the the Chinese man who killed the girl in Kano.
Yes.
And the case was just adjourned for months, just because there was no translator. Is it that difficult to get a translator? Do we need months to get a translator?
Yeah.
Where we could actually get a translator. In fact, that very day, if we needed a translator.
Look at Evans.
Yeah.
If not of recent, that he was sentenced.
He was sentenced, yeah. The case, how many years? So I think we should ensure that justice is not delayed by other issues that are coming up. I'm not saying that the electoral cases are not important. They are very important. But then again, how do you explain to someone else that this is more important than their case that they are looking for justice for, or the other person who is a perpetrator, for example, alleged perpetrator who has been arrested by the police but cannot be arraigned to the courts because of this delay. Now he has to stay in cell or in jail pending his own fair trial for God knows how long, because most of these cases might drag up until maybe the week before the general elections.
Yeah.
And some of them might continue after the general elections.
Yes, now
so
after the general, don't you think there is correlation between, because I think there is a new development now saying that there will be recourse from attending to any other cases. Don't you think that maybe the Justice Soho wants to actually respect the letters of the Electoral Act, which stipulates that all pre-election cases must be dispensed with before election?
Yeah, you see, it's expedient because you cannot go into an election when there's a matter in court. And that's why they work.
But they've been doing that before now, yeah.
Yeah, that's
you
why.
You see some case pre-election matters after election, when even some people have been sworn in.
So yeah, I think that has been taken care of. And I think there was a time, I know there was a kind of synergy between the legal department of INEC with Ministry of Justice trying to look at how to, because INEC spent sometimes even more than what they spent during elections than they spend after, because of post-election, there's so many litigations here and there, some of them back from before this election shouldn't have happened in the first place. You understand? So really, there's a need to keep that synergy intact and review whatever or the bottlenecks around it to make sure that no candidate is actually fit to go into an election without sorting out every legal issue around it. And how do you do that? Is to expedite action on every legal cases before the election, because you have ample time. One of the worst judicial system that we can find around the world is the Nigerian judicial system.
Why? What an indictment.
Yeah, the indictments are very clear. They are everywhere. He's mentioned some. You see, there's a case where actually on right now where someone rented a house and later on the landlord gave him an option of first refusal and said, okay, if you want to, he said, I'm interested. And he said, okay, the money for my next rent, I'm paying it, but it will be counted as part of the payment if I come up. And there was an agreement to say I'll pay in 3 installments. For 5 years now, he has not dropped a dime. And, you know, the matter has been in court for more than 2 years. I can tell you, I'm a witness. You understand? I've gone to court 5 times from January till now. Every date the judge said he never showed up.
Yeah.
That's frustrating. And that's one of the, you know.
Yeah, one of the complications.
You understand? And this happened all the time in all kind of
all the cases.
and
maybe they have to do so many things. I have many questions on this, but we will take a short break, and when we return, the conversation continues. Stay with us.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our various social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. We have in the studio Mukhtar Suleiman, Communication Manager, Accountability Lab, and Samaila Musa. He's a public commentator. We are discussing issues in the polity, especially important matters that happen within the week. Yes, welcome back. Yes, Mukhtar, we spoke about the judiciary, INEC and all that. But the politicians, if you take APC, for instance, they now have many cases in Taraba, in Yobe, in Bauchi, hundreds of cases. Adamawa, a whole governorship candidate. Now, but we tend to shift the blame to the judiciary for its inability to dispense of most of these cases. Don't you think political parties should take the largest share of the blame?
Yes, I do think that they should take the largest share of the blame, but also there's also the issue of what justice means to most of our judges. Most people are trying as much as possible to protect their own political and ambitious interest, because they know that at the end of the day, the growth of their career is highly dependent on who is at the helm of affairs. And this is a byproduct of most of the political processes that we go through in the country. It is quite sad that we don't have, well, no country in the world has an independent way of verifying or selecting how people go into the justice system, how they climb up the judicial ladder, because this is a very key component of our democracy. We can see it, how it played out in the US when Trump became president. Most of the Supreme Court judges became Republican, people with Republican ideologies.
The recruitment process.
Yes, the recruitment process is it's sad that it has to go through, it's still at the hands of whosoever
the
it is
politicians.
at the helm of affairs. We who are people who come through the political processes. I really wish we could devise, I don't know what it is, I really wish we could devise newer ways, because that is, when you see in this kind of political cases, I do not envy most of the judges.
You pity them.
Ironically, for some of them, they might have lobbied their way to get these positions as well. Because like he has stated, I don't have any facts to prove about the cabal and all of that exist. But you can be rest assured that the first law of human nature is self-preservance. We always want to protect ourselves first.
What do I do to remain?
What do I do to ensure that my career is protected, that my life is protected, my families are safe? And I do not envy them, honestly, because most of them are actually going to be in difficult positions, especially for those of them who have integrity and who are going to ensure that they uphold that in the face of all of the push and pull factor they are going to actually face throughout the entire process. And it's sad that most of these issues are things that they could actually sort out internally, one. Secondly, it's also sad that most of these things are issues that shouldn't be issues to start with.
Exactly.
Because it was clear. It's why I've always said this every single time I'm here. I am so happy about the Electoral Act. I think most people are still trying as much as possible to get accustomed to it.
Complexity.
Yes, to get accustomed to it. And because they do not have any other legal way to trump the content of the Electoral Act, they are just...
They were caught off guard.
Yeah, they are left hanging out to dry at this point. And they are still arguing against a law that is clearly stated and has been passed by they themselves again.
Yes.
So I really do hope that
we get it right.
We can get it right.
Musa, we mentioned states like Yobe, Taraba, and many others, even in Benue, right? Yeah, Nasarawa yesterday, senatorial election was, primaries was crashed at the court. Why is it difficult for political parties to get it right? He said most of the issues are things that they can easily
sort out.
Yes, why?
Yeah, well, you see, the way typical Nigerian thinks politics is a do or die affair, and when you approach governance not with the mindset of servant role, from the angle of lordship, then you always have this kind of problem, because it breeds greed. It breeds, look, the winner takes all kind of system that we operate, then I must be the winner. Otherwise, nobody gets it. It's either my way or the highway. So these are complex issues that we're not really looking at, because you see, political office holders are seen as, even if you're poor, if you're poorest of the poor, your jackpot is to make it to a political office. That's one of the money spinners, that's your money ritual, you understand? So, and when people come, and especially in a country like ours, to say, I must get it by all costs, because we're just looking at the litigations. What about the people getting killed because of their ambitions? Toggery and all of that. You understand? And it's even a bit, because this year, we didn't record much of political killings like in the past. I think that area is a bit going down.
So kudos to the security agencies.
No. Kudos to the politicians themselves. The security agencies have not done anything. I mean, which area of insecurity has been taken care of? Nothing. It's not that. They are not the ones that. Look, I say it blank. They are not taking care of nothing, because when they want to go and execute or want to go and assassinate someone, they don't inform the security agencies. So if they have the security report, they shouldn't have been dispelling even people who brought security report before their doormats and say, look, this is going to happen in Nigeria. And then you keep denying the fact that this is obvious to every deaf, to every blind. They know this is going to happen. And then you make another statement out there, but you're walking on the ground. I don't want to give kudos to who it doesn't deserve it.
Okay,
Look,
now on the politicians,
yes.
what do you think? Because many, as he said, they can even withdraw from the courts to make things easier, to have a smooth election 2023. What is your call to the politicians?
Exactly the point.
Because you see, we have tons of cases
it's
across
out of
the courts.
the mind or the heart of sportsmanship that somebody says, I'm withdrawing. We can settle this out of court. What is this ambition all about? I want to serve our people. You also want to serve our people. Do you understand? We all have common goal. All our priority is that we just want to plunge these people out of this poverty or out of this insecurity or out of whatever problem you identify in your own domain. You understand? So it shouldn't be something that drives you crazy, this over ambitions that makes you feel nobody's going to get it in the long run. If I don't have it, nobody's going to get it. You understand? So I think they need to work on their mindset the more. You see, the problem actually why the politicians are largely to be blamed or to be held responsible is, I tell you, 90% of these guys don't even have any ideology driving their ambitions. 99% of Nigerian politicians don't know the manifesto of their party. A governor said it right in my presence, that I was governor for a former governor at the time. Say, I was governor for 8 years, I don't know the manifesto of my party. He mentioned that because a professor was leaving him when we came, and the professor said, Your Excellency, about this new party you want to register, I will go, when I get back to school, I'll go and draft the manifesto. He just looked at him and looked at us and laughed. He said, Professor, don't worry yourself. Who cares about manifesto? I was governor for 8 years. I don't know the manifesto of my party. So you see, these are little issues that we're actually not looking into. Because if I feel you also trying to solve the problem I identify.
Why the argument?
Why the argument?
We should be on the same page.
You understand? We should be on the same page. So really, there's need for some reorientation, some recalibration from the party level to know that, look, if you don't fit in here, you better go elsewhere. And then maybe some other internal party, bylaws that is going to guide the process such that you don't end up having this kind of problems all the time.
And what impact does this have on the electorate? You see, people who are supposed to lead are, enveloped in series of crises. Does this discourage people from having hope in the electoral system?
I think our political space is not ideologically driven, but it's selfishly driven by what can I get for myself, as opposed to how can we do something to help the country. It's a healthy debate among peers, among colleagues. It's good. Because why? It keeps people on their toes. So it's actually a good thing if we all argue sometimes, but we should all be arguing toward the same goal. And I think that is sort of what a party manifesto does. It kind of tilts the however it is, the conversation, however it is, wherever it is that you're coming from, however, where we have problem is usually the approach to the solution, but we all agree that this is tentatively the solution. But that's not the situation in Nigeria, in the Nigerian political space. There's no ideological drive as to how parties should actually operate or what drives each party. So I have a problem with the multiple party system that we actually run. So if that can be checked, where parties are actually
But we have just 18
driven,
now that have been registered.
It's still a lot. It's still a lot, because imagine if all of them were running on 18 ideologies.
At the time, people were complaining, 1993 or thereabout, you had only 2. People were complaining. Now the parties are evolving. Don't you think we should encourage them, but they should also intensify efforts in building internal democracy?
I think it all depends on the approach that we use. People, like I said, healthy disagreement is always a good thing. But the key thing for me right now that I think that we need to do is to ensure that it's ideologically driven. What is the ideology that you are using? Because it's easier to negotiate with people when they have an ideology that drives their day-to-day activities, as opposed to when they are just going out for personal greed. I have a feeling, I might not be right, I might be right, that it's why most of these internal conflicts are happening. Because there is no, where do you negotiate from? What do you think that person wants? If all the person is thinking about, because there's a way we've misconstrued the political space to be entrepreneurship in this country. It's why you begin to see before office and after office pictures of some of our political office holders, and then you are amazed. So if the person's idea of what the person wants to go and do in office is just to enrich themselves and plunge themselves out of the common man status and feed off the psychophancy that comes with the office that they are going to occupy, then how do you negotiate with that kind of person?
Talking about negotiation, I will move to presidential candidate of the Labour Party who was with us in Daily Trust. He said he's going to negotiate with IPOP and other violent groups. Are you in tune with his understanding of how he's going to govern?
Yeah, well, when he said negotiations, I'm actually taken aback because, you see, we've seen a lot of negotiations happen in this country that never yield any result. But of course, when you look at it from the other side, because when you flip it, you'll be like, okay, is it better since our security operatives have not been able to be on top of the situation? Which one is better? Do the killings go on, or I negotiate? You understand? So I think perhaps maybe some indices inform his decision to say, well, I think the only way out of this is to negotiate with them because we don't have the capacity from the angle of the government to tackle these issues. And that's also an indication of a failed state, which needs to be looked into.
But Nigeria is not
properly.
a failed state.
It's tilting towards that. You see, when you begin to have, I'll tell you quite a number of African countries who started negotiations with warlords, with militant leaders. Those militant leaders eventually started forming part of government in the long run, because that's what is going to happen in the long run. I think there's an interview I held with Punch newspaper about when Tompolo was given, not that I have issues with him being given that particular thing, but you see, when you begin to reward criminality, young people are seeing this. It's a country we're battling with Yahoo boys, Yahoo Plus, all manner of scams, you understand? And then they begin to see people like Hush Puppy as role models. Later on, we're tilting these things to say, when you become a strong warlord, who have killed so many people, then you get a good reward for it in the long run. It's transcend what you think is happening now, because a lot of young people in secondary schools, there's an internet age, they're reading all these things on their phones, and they're feeling the way to go is to become a hardened criminal. Later on, the government calls you to sit down and negotiate
become
with you.
part of the government.
So really, there are two sides to this situation, really. And so you need to be careful. I don't have a problem with negotiations, but each time a government goes to a negotiating table from the angle of weakness, it's boomerang in their faces. You need to go there from the position of strength. That is what governance is known for. When you go there from the angle of weakness, then the warlords begin to dictate to you. If you don't do this, then we're going to go back to what we're doing. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. That is what's been happening. We've seen where governors have actually, stretched the olive tree to some militants or some bandits. They never worked. When they finish spending what you give them, they go back to it because they give you conditions. So we need to be very careful when someone like Peter Obi, who I feel has actually studied it from behind the fence, is coming out to say, well, the only thing I'm going to do now is to, get there, maybe try to see if some other strategy is going to work around it, because there are a lot of things these people who are there actually not doing right. You understand? I know certainly there are things they're not doing right. We saw how America came into our soil to come rescue their own person. You understand? Without even informing our security, because there's always a sabotage. When they pass that kind of information, somebody informs the terrorists.
Not the latest incident at Trade Mall Estate, because
no. This one is just recent. You understand? I mean, an American was kidnapped.
Yeah.
They came in here to come and say, and if people were like, no. This goes against all sense of diplomacy. How do you come into a territory? But they say, yeah, we have an excuse. We've shared information with these people in the past. There's always a sabotage. We heard it from the bandits themselves to say, somebody inform us, and that's why we move from that location to another location. There are a hell of a lot of issues that you need to resolve around negotiations with warlords, because I like to put it that way.
Mukhtar, what is your take on this?
For every rehabilitation, let me call it that way, because after the negotiation there will be a rehabilitation process. There always like a 5 process, which we like to call the 5 R's. It's recognition, responsibility, remorse, restitution, and
very interesting. Wow.
reconciliation.
Okay.
And reconciliation. Where I have a problem in the whole process is usually in restitution. You did something because you felt like the government has offended you. The government offended you, so you got angry, and that unchecked grievance led you to actually act the way you did. Now, you came back and then you hurt me as well as a retaliation for what the government has done to you. How then do I get restitution as a person? Because now, I was also offended by the government, and you have also hurt me. So who gives me my own restitution between you and the government? So I think that's where the issue is most of the time in the entire process of rehabilitation or negotiation and trying to bring people who have shown criminal tendencies back into communities, because I think that is where Peter Obi needs to actually check it. I read the report of what he said, and I think I'm quoting the president in December last year during the Summit for Democracy. He said, I can't remember exactly word for word what he said, but invariably what he was saying that it is insecurity has led to the decline of democracy in the country. But I don't think that is the case.
Okay.
We at the lab, we believe that it is lack of democracy that has led to insecurity.
So it's the other way.
Yeah, because by all ramifications, it is unchecked grievances about some group of people that have led to the high rise of insecurity that we have today. You're making decisions and policies without taking into account what the communities, local communities actually feel, or what they think should be their own driver for a good governance. I think that's where the open government partnership is actually very, very important, where we have a co-creation model that everybody can actually participate and partake in governance processes.
Yeah.
So I think the presidential aspirant Peter Obi needs to actually check it properly, because my question, if he's sitting right in front of me today, would be, if after you're done negotiating, how would you ensure restitution before reconciliation? Because if you can explain to me how you're going to go through these hours and ensure that people from the community side, because if you don't check the grievance of the people from the community side based on the actions of these people, you're also going to set another uprising again from their own end. It might actually birth another means of conflict. So that needs to really, really be checked. I hope that he has a plan and a strategy to actually go about that. Also, just to also add, something I saw in his interview where he said he wants to be seen as a man that changed Nigeria. I think we need to kill the God complex that most politicians have.
Okay.
To think that they are the sole savior of the country. You're not.
It should be about collective responsibility.
Yes, and I'm saying this to all of them. Judge R.R. Martin once said, nobody ever wakes up in the morning and say, oh, what evil can I do today? Everybody who thought that they were evil thought themselves to be heroes of their story.
Yeah.
So no politician will tell you, I'm going there to sabotage Nigeria. Of course, they all think they want to come and save the country.
Yeah.
But the arrogance of the God complex that some of them embody, to say, oh, we want to, because it's the same thing we saw, it's the same marketing strategy we saw for 2015.
Yeah.
It's the same, and look at where we are today.
And they are all repeated. I wish we have more time to discuss, because he mentioned many other things, including other reporters, candidates, like talking about removing subsidy, talking about...
I really want to talk about the subsidy.
Maybe next time. And then talking about selling of the refineries,
I really have an opinion on subsidy.
The week was really fully loaded. We hope we have time to discuss some of these issues. Mukhtar Suleiman, Communication Manager, Accountability Lab. Thank you very much for coming. Samaila Musa, we appreciate your input, and we hope we have you another time.
Thank you.
Viewers, that's a wrap on today's program. Thank you very much for watching, and do join us again for another program. I am Hamza Idris.